and we will stand with allies and partners, including Israel, to oppose Iran's dangerous behavior. And we are not going to relent until we bring home our Americans who are unjustly detained in Iran. Journalist Jason Rezaian should be released. Pastor Saeed Abedini should be released. Amir Hekmati, a former sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, should be released. Iran needs to help us find Robert Levinson. These Americans need to be back home with their families.
All right, as I indicated earlier in the show, when did this dawn on him? It's amazing. Joining us now on the Malzberg panel, Ford O'Connell, Republican strategist, political analyst, author of Hail Mary, the 10-step playbook for Republican recovery. And for the first time on the Malzberg panel, Stephen Laser, Democratic strategist and host of Making Sense with Steve Laser. Hello, gentlemen. All right, let me start with you, Stephen. You know, just a few days ago, this man stood before the American public and said, we couldn't talk about bringing the prisoners home because then they would want more concessions. Subsequently, John Kerry said, we talked about the prisoners every single day. So begs the question, which one was lying? And now he's like, we got to bring the prisoners home. Guess what? A little too late. You have no leverage.
Well, I think that, you know, this is a separate issue from the nuclear issue. I think they're both very important. And, you know, I do share your concern about these prisoners. I would love to see them brought home. I think anybody who serves the United States in any capacity, you mentioned one of them was a former service member, it has to be one of our top priorities to bring those folks home. I'm sure the negotiations are ongoing, but I don't think that should be on the same, you know, potentially derail, for instance, the nuclear deal. I think they can be treated as
well, Ford, it's the funding and sponsoring of terror. It's destroying the government of Yemen. It's killing Americans. Nothing enters into the nuclear negotiations.
Well, if Obama was as tough on Iran as he is on Congress, they would have already been home, these four folks. And to be honest with you, he should have started out, Iran, if you want to sit down and get the economic concessions back, then show some good faith. Give us the 4 hostages. And frankly, I disagree with you, Lester, because once we lifted the UN ban on arms and ballistic missiles, that was a concession that was not nuclear related either. Therefore, you had all right to ask for the 4 hostages then. So guess what? They should be home, and public pressure showing that Obama got a bad deal.
Good point there, Stephen.
I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes here. What you actually have is the United States and Iran doing a lot of things for each other behind the scenes in terms of working against ISIS. ISIS is a common threat for both of us. I think that both sides recognize that, and I think within the next month or two you will see a deal.
Well, I hope you're right, but I fear you're wrong. Now let me ask you, Stephen, about the lowering of the flag for the Marines and the petty officer in the Navy who were killed by the terrorists. Why did it take them until today? When the White House was even asked about it yesterday, and Josh Earnest, his spokesman, said, I don't know, I can't answer that. Why? Why when states did it, when the Congress did it, why did the president hold out until public pressure was instituted?
It definitely took them too long. You know, I'm not gonna make excuses for them. I'm glad that they took care of it. I don't think it was really that big of an issue in terms, I don't think they meant any sort of disrespect to service members. Service members actually like this administration a lot. They donated twice as much money in 2012 to the Obama administration as they did to Romney. So, and I think service members are a lot smarter than people give them credit for. So I think this has been a very friendly administration to members of the military. This was just one that they missed.
Ford, the polls don't show that.
Well, Obama, this is his M.O. He's leading from behind again. This time it's when it comes to honoring servicemen and women. Lowering that flag for 5 comrades who died is a signal of honor and respect. And frankly, we should be doing that, period. This was an act of terror. I don't care whether it was foreign or domestic. We need to have our first offenders, the line of freedom, know that we have their back when something goes wrong. And frankly, we should be arming them at military installations. This is absolutely ridiculous. We need to protect those who protect us. How backwards is that, Steve?
Well, absolutely. Oh, you're talking to Steve. I don't know which Steve you're talking to.
Oh, Steve.
All right, well,
exactly.
I'll take it. All right, but I do want to, you're absolutely right. And, you know, you have some legal gun owners who have a right to carry standing outside military recruiting centers around the country protecting the unarmed military members because they're not allowed to carry. That's how insane it is. Let's get to this. I want everybody to hear Lindsey Graham.
What he said about John, I think, was offensive. He's becoming a jackass at a time.
Right. So he calls Donald Trump a jackass Trump responds, gives out his cell phone number, Ford. But you know what? The ABC News poll shows that Trump has increased his lead again.
Well, one point about the ABC News poll. After Trump's comments about John McCain, actually he dipped in the final day of polling. I do agree with you. Donald Trump's driving the news rather than the news driving his campaign. But I have to admit, giving out Lindsey Graham's phone number was a little childish.
All right, well, Stephen, I know you're a Democrat, so I'm feeding you red meat, but was Lindsey Graham, I mean, Trump responds. He responded to McCain in a terrible way, a wrong way, because McCain called those who came to see him crazies. Now he responds to Lindsey Graham, who called him a jackass. So he isn't starting some of this, he's responding.
Well, just taking on, obviously you mentioned I'm a Democrat, but just taking the perspective of a Republican, you have to almost admire the job that Trump and his folks have done. I mean, he has done something that neither McCain nor Romney has been able to do, and that's capture the imagination of the conservative wing of the Republican Party. He is driving the conversation. And I think that, assuming that he can ride out the issues with these statements on McCain, and I think he will, I think he's going to be hard to stop. The conservative wing of the Republican Party, that base, and this is why I picked, just so you guys both know, I picked Cruz to take the nomination.
All right, well, it's going to be interesting, Stephen, not to cut you off. I'm up against the clock. Good panel, guys. Thank you very much to both of you, Stephen Ford, and we'll speak to you again soon. Up next, Bill Donahue weighing in on the Planned Parenthood fiasco. But first, we want to hear your feedback. So log on to newsmaxtv.com/comments, newsmaxtv.com/comments, and tell me what you think.